What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Week 6 NFL Power Rankings, and man alive, does this league move quickly. We are now a third way through the season. We're starting to get a much better grasp on who's legit, who the pretenders are, who's kind of week to week right now, still trying to figure themselves out. Our weekly picks the last 2 weeks have been great, and I think my power rankings are really starting to take shape. There's going to be less movement this week than we've had, so we're starting to feel pretty comfortable about this, but obviously still a lot of stuff to talk about. So let's get into it here. Starting at the bottom, the 49ers are going to take a new place here at dead last. And it's not that they're like god-awful, and I don't think they're a lock for the last pick in the NFL right now, but you know, Beathard is clearly a backup guy. Their defense wasn't even that good to begin with, and now they're just kind of demoralized with the Jimmy Garoppolo situation. Marcus Goodwin can't stay healthy. They're dealing with running back injuries. Just not the year that this team was hoping for. I think their future is still incredibly bright. You guys know how I feel about Jimmy Garoppolo, but you know, they're probably starting to start thinking about their draft position already. And then 31, the Buffalo Bills are going to move up one. Now, they looked just miserable last week, but even in Green Bay, they showed some nice things on defense. And really the last, I would say, 14 quarters of football, this defense has been very legit, probably in that top 10 range. And that's what we saw in this game against Tennessee. They made Marcus Mariota look foolish, and the offense sucks. It's the worst offense in the NFL. I don't think it's even that close. And, you know, Josh Allen didn't really have to do much in this game. So when you have a hard time scoring points, it's going to be hard to win week to week. But like I've been saying from the get-go, I don't think it's a very good team, but I think this defense is going to hang around in games, especially in Buffalo. So I don't think they're the worst team in the NFL right now. And then we got the Cardinals getting a +1, picking up their first win on the season in San Francisco. They are getting a spark from Josh Rosen, who's playing very well. It's been enough to kind of bring this defense back to relevancy. We know they've got some playmakers on that side of the ball, but they kind of fall in the same category as Buffalo, where they just don't have any firepower on offense right now, and they're just not very scary. And then our next 4 teams are actually staying put from where we've had them. So the Jets are going to stay put at 29, despite picking up the win. You know, Sam Darnold looked really good in this game, made some just wow throws. The touchdown to Robbie Anderson being the most noteworthy one. So they're going to be able to score some points with kind of Darnold and kind of the playground style that he has, but they really don't have a whole lot of weapons on offense. And then defensively, they got some nice players, but it's really just a below-average team. They're going to play in some tight games, but I'm not too excited about the Jets this season. 28, the Oakland Raiders. When this team traded Khalil Mack, I thought this was going to be a historically bad defense. It's exactly what we're seeing. They are allowing 7 yards per play right now, which is the worst since the 1970 merger. But the one thing I will say is that it actually being that bad on defense ironically makes the Khalil Mack trade make sense, because it's not like having Khalil Mack was going to make this team any relevant right now with how bad this defense is. They just don't have any talent. And by the time they're ready to be a relevant team, Khalil Mack was going to be 29 or whatever. So we'll see how it all plays out with the picks. I still think they could have gotten more for Khalil Mack, but I thought I'd bring that up. Offensively, though, this team's playing pretty well offensively, but Carr's just a little inconsistent. And then 27, we got the Tampa Bay Bucks staying put. We'll see how they look coming off the bye week with Jameis taking the reins yet again. Still think it's an atrocious defense. Giants staying put. Congrats to them for scoring 30 points for the first time since 2015, I think it was. My goodness. You know, not a good offense. Very average to below average defense. Just not a good football team. But they are kind of fun to watch with Odell and Saquon out there. And then Miami Dolphins. Ryan Tannehill, yet again, on the road, looked atrocious. Looked like one of the 3 worst quarterbacks in the NFL. I'll be stunned if Ryan Tannehill continues this era moving forward. Basically gave that game away with turnovers back when they were winning. You know, I didn't buy in. I said this is a team that does have a solid defense. I like their defense, but they basically have to win by creating big plays with basically Jakeem Grant, who scored another punt return, or maybe a kick return. I think it was a punt return touchdown in this game, but they had to win by taking care of the football. And you can tell just Ryan Tannehill turns the ball over. He doesn't move the ball on offense, and they can't win the game like that. I think that's who this Dolphins team is. And then at 24, the Cleveland Browns, a historic day on this channel last Thursday when I picked them to win this game, and they showed off that good defense at home. Baker played very well in this game. Still some rookie mistakes at times, just like we saw in Oakland. But man, that drive he had to score right before half was a wow drive. I'm definitely buying into Baker the more and more you watch the guy. I was definitely underselling his arm talent and his accuracy. He is just money within about 20 yards of the line of scrimmage. It's very impressive. So the Browns are competitive. 23, the Texans getting their second overtime win in a row. I wasn't that impressed by them. We've got a pretty good grasp on what this team is. It's not going to be a consistent offense. Watson's a good player. He can make some things happen, but he's still young with no offensive line. But they got some playmakers in Fuller and Hopkins. And then defensively, it's basically just a really good pass rush with liabilities behind them. So it's a fine team. They're going to be in the mix in that division. But I'm just not really super excited about this team right now. I just think they have a lot of holes. And in 22, the Seahawks are staying put. Played the Rams, very competitive at home. I thought that might happen. Russell Wilson played lights out in this game. I'm sure he's glad to have Doug Baldwin back out there. But the defense just, as you would expect, taking a bit of a step back without Earl Thomas. That is a big hit. It's going to be a competitive team from week to week, but probably taking themselves out of the playoff conversation here. And then 21, the Indianapolis Colts. I still like this team. They got a ton of injuries right now. Still an underrated defense if they can get healthy, but just so many guys out, and they still played pretty well against the Patriots. Andrew Luck getting better week by week, but he's been playing really well. So the Colts are a tough out right now. They just can't seem to buy a win. And then we got the Cowboys. They're going to stay put. They go into Houston as underdogs, force overtime. I think this is a solid defense. Offensively, they have their woes. It's a team that's not elite on either side of the ball, but is at least, I would say, average on each side. Maybe slightly below average offensively. And then the Denver Broncos, they're going to fall down 7 here. And, like I said last week, I put these power rankings together in the fourth quarter of last game when Denver was up 2 scores against the Chiefs. They blow it. And normally I wouldn't overreact to a single quarter, but this is a team that with Von Miller at home, you would have expected them to close that game out. Very concerning. That's the type of thing that good playoff teams can do, close games at home when you're up 2 scores in the fourth quarter. And the inability to do that was concerning. They go to New York, and they just don't have an identity right now. Vance Joseph definitely going to be getting put on that hot seat here very soon. Denver is on a very steep decline right now. They need a win this week to kind of get back into the conversation here. And then Detroit at 18, they're going to move up 3. So I picked them to upset Green Bay this week. This offense has just been so impressive to me. Kenny Golladay emerging as a star in this league. Stafford doing his thing, and then you get the run game going a little bit with Kerryon Johnson. It's a scary offense. I don't think it's a very good defense at all. That's why they're not going to be a top 16 team here, but they are a very good team. The NFC North is tightening up with Detroit looking better, Chicago obviously doing their thing, Minnesota gets a bounce back win. We'll talk about the rest of those teams here moving forward. And then we got Jacksonville staying put at 17. Just Blake Bortles is going to Blake Bortles. In an offensive league, I don't know where Jacksonville sits right now. I mean, I'm saying they sit at 17, but when you got to score points and you need your quarterback to step up, this team is just at such a disadvantage. Basically, all of his production and moving the ball is going to rely on crossing routes and D.D. Westbrook, Keelan Cole, and those guys just catching slants and crossing routes and making guys miss. And that's a very unreliable offensive strategy. And they're very similar to my next team here, the Chicago Bears. Now, I think the Bears have more firepower on offense, and I think Trubisky has a slightly higher ceiling, but I think Trubisky and Bortles right now are actually very similar quarterbacks. But the Chicago defense has a little more oomph right now with the Khalil Mack factor. I don't think the Jags have quite the game breaker that the Bears have in Khalil Mack there. But these two teams, 16, 17, right in the middle here, these are the 2 best defenses in the NFL right now. But you just don't know what you're getting offensively week to week. Obviously, the Bears put up all those points against Tampa in week 4. We'll see how they respond this week coming off the bye. Obviously, if they can be even half of what they were offensively there, this is a team that's going to compete in the NFC North. But you can never overreact to 1 week, especially against a brutal defense such as Tampa Bay. They looked pretty bad for the first 3 weeks, Anyway, let's keep moving. At 15, we got the Tennessee Titans. Super disappointing loss in Buffalo after a huge win at home against the defending Super Bowl champs, who we're starting to find out are just not what they were last year in the Eagles. But a step back from Mariota in this offense. This defense is still pretty good, and it's a reason I feel comfortable still putting them at 15. But this does seem to be that same Titans team that you just don't really know what kind of offense you're going to get every week. Not the worst loss, but a game that you would have expected a team with playoff aspirations to win. And then 14, the Atlanta Falcons are going to drop. When this team's got to go on the road and you don't get that uber efficient Matt Ryan that you get at home, this team's just, it's over. I'll probably be taking whoever Atlanta's playing on the road in pretty much every game for the rest of the year until they prove they can win a road game. This defense is an open road right now. It's so many injuries. I don't know when Grady Jarrett's coming back, but it's just bad right now. They have to score like 38 or plus points. I mean, Pittsburgh put up 41 in this one. And Matt Ryan has just proved that he's not the same guy on the road. So while their record is going to keep falling, I still think they're a tough out. Some people are going to expect the Falcons to be even lower. I'm sure ESPN and NFL are going to have them in the 20s this week. When you have an elite unit like the Falcons do on offense, you're still going to be a tough out. And I still believe that about Atlanta. And it's kind of funny I'm sitting here defending Atlanta right now. And then 13, full disclosure here, guys, I'm recording this before the Monday night. I want to make sure I get this out at the same time I've been able to do it. I just will not have time to record tonight after the game. So we're going to record this as if the Saints follow up with my prediction and win like 33-24, that Washington's defense looks scrappy but gives up some big plays, that New Orleans is kind of lights out offensively, and these teams kind of look the way we think. Now, if Washington gets destroyed, it's not really going to change my opinion of them. I don't think they match up that well with New Orleans anyway, and that's a tough game to go on the road. But if New Orleans were to lose, well, we'll talk about New Orleans in a minute. Number 12, the Carolina Panthers have been really impressive this year. Just some resilient wins. I mean, they make a 63-yard field goal to win this game. Cam Newton has been lights out, an under-the-radar MVP candidate right now, even if his statistics aren't there. It's a solid defense. Defense didn't play too great in this one, but we know they can play some defense. They're just a really solid team. They have an identity, which is more than about half these teams can say. They got some playmakers. So Carolina definitely on the rise. Really impressed with how they've responded despite some tough injuries, especially on that offensive line. Then we got the Baltimore Ravens. They're going to drop down 2 going into Cleveland and losing. Not changing my opinion too much on this team. Again, I did pick Cleveland to win that game. I don't trust Baltimore's offense at all, though they have improved. Just don't trust Joe Flacco. They don't have enough playmakers. Defensively, it's really solid, but you got to score more than 12 points to win in this league consistently. Number 10, the Cincinnati Bengals, just on the rise. And I had kind of pumped the brakes here, and I've liked the Bengals this whole year. I was definitely higher on them coming into the season than a lot of people. But they come out, they're 4-1 now, and the main reason I'm willing to put them in the top 10 here is the things Andy Dalton has shown us right now. And in the past, we've gotten used to an Andy Dalton that when he gets behind, when you really need to rely on him, things go south. And I know the defense scored 2 touchdowns in the second half of this game to kind of bring them back from the dead, and they did get off to a really slow start against Miami. But we haven't seen this kind of mental toughness from this Bengals team. We like to make fun of Andy Dalton and Marvin Lewis because they can't close close games, and that's all they've done this year. So I'm really impressed with how the identity of this team is changing. Joe Mixon was back, and he looked electric this week. They still have a bunch of playmakers on offense despite the Tyler Eifert injury. And then defense, just when you have the pass rush that this team has and some playmakers in the secondary and getting Vontaze Burfict back this week, it's just a really above average defense. And the same thing can be said about the offense. So definitely rising on the Bengals. I don't think I'm going to get into like Super Bowl discussion about this Bengals team, but they're definitely a threat in the AFC that is kind of watered down right now. And then the third AFC North team in a row. This could be the best division in football right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers are heating up. We thought this was going to happen. We didn't freak out when they started slow. I do still think this defense is really atrocious. I don't trust the edge rush. I don't trust these defensive backs. Now, Joe Hayden played well this week. He needs to keep playing like that. But the offense is really starting to click. They're going to get Le'Veon Bell going pretty soon, it seems. And that's going to be a spark. So the Steelers are kind of back here. And then the other Philadelphia team, rather, they're going to drop fourth. Philadelphia Eagles coming in at number 8. We talk about the Super Bowl hangover every year. People want to avoid that conversation because you look at this team on paper and they're just stacked, but it's true, man. They're beat up. The offensive line is just not blocking. It's so weird. Like, this was coming into the year, we thought the best offensive line in the NFL, at least with the Travis Frederick injury in Dallas, and they have the same guys last year and they're healthy, but they just aren't playing at the level that they're capable of, and it's really affecting this offense. Defensively, they've got injuries. They miss Patrick Robinson in the nickel, as Ronald Darby has just been awful. Not Ronald Darby, sorry, Jalen Mills. Rodney McLeod is down, so it's just not the same team they had last year. It's still competitive. You know, they were in it till the end against a good Minnesota team. I still think they're going to figure some things out as we move along, but it is getting pretty interesting here, and this division kind of stinks. We could be back to the days of 9 wins winning the NFC East. Could Washington get in the mix? Right now, I still think Philly's got this division, but we'll see. They got to start playing better as we're into October now. And then number 7, the Minnesota Vikings. Really good response this week. The defense stepped up much more now. Still some concerns as we move forward. And, you know, credit this offense that is really just Kirk Cousins and a pair of elite receivers right now with Diggs and Thielen. But there are things about this team that really concern me. Number 1 is Everson Griffin is nowhere to be found right now. No one knows when he's going to be back. And I truly believe he is the most pivotal piece of this entire team, is how the pressure he creates will just spark the secondary. Xavier Rhodes has been awful since Everson Griffin disappeared. And that applies to the entire secondary. So the defense just isn't the same right now. And then offensively, while they are kind of electric with Cousins and these receivers, this team is on a historic pace, like an outlier season in terms of quarterback pressures. And Cousins has handled it very well, and you've got to credit him. And, you know, he's proved that he can handle it very well, but it's just not a sustainable thing. There's certain things in this league that just aren't built to last, and your quarterback getting blasted all of the time and always having hands in his face is just not very sustainable. So they need to get better protection for Kirk Cousins. It was enough in this game, but man, if they're going up against explosive offenses like we saw with the Rams last week, they can play catch up, but I don't know if they can fully keep up, especially without Everson Griffin on the other side slowing the other guys down. So that was a lot of time to talk about the Vikings. They're definitely trending upwards. It was a big win this week. I don't want to discount that. And I still got them in the top 7. I think they're going to be right there in this NFC when all is said and done. But they got a lot of questions. All right, let's move on. Green Bay, they're going to fall down 1 this week. And I actually picked Detroit to win this week, so not really surprised by the results. But to be honest, you look at that game, they had a punt return, questionable, tough call that gives Detroit 7 right away. Huge momentum shift, and then the 13 points that were left on the field from Mason Crosby missing field goals, and Green Bay probably should have won this game. Rodgers started really slow, was really concerning, just hesitant throwing the ball, like was seeing ghosts, but really just shook it off and looked like good old Rodgers in the second half. And he has looked healthier and healthier every week, and the reason I'm still confident in this team at number 6 is they get the Niners at home this week. With a long week of rest, they played on Monday Night Football. They should be 10 or 11 point favorites in that game. They should easily take care of business, get some momentum into the bye week, get Rodgers 100%, and then they will play the Rams coming off the bye. So we're going to learn a lot about this Packers team in the next 3 weeks. They have injuries on the defensive side of the ball, but defensively, I actually thought they played pretty well in this game. A lot of turnovers, a lot of short fields. You see the 30-plus points, but it really was not a bad day for this defense. And then number 5, the Chargers making their way into the top 5 for the first time this year. Now, they haven't really been challenged with a difficult schedule, but they basically won a tough road game this week, as that was basically all Raiders fans at that game. The Chargers have just really been impressive this year offensively. They've been a machine. Phillip Rivers has been lights out. They run the ball. I think Melvin Gordon is just underrated Austin Eckler's playing great. Even Tyrell Williams is starting to secure his hands a little bit. So while you're optimistic about this offense, the idea that Joey Bosa is going to be back pretty soon here, I think they said, maybe week 8 is a good target for that. We'll see. But I mean, just look at what adding Khalil Mack to that Bears defense did. It went from an average to above average defense to a top 3 defense. And that's a similar type of spark plug that the Chargers are going to get with Bosa back. We know these corners have talent. They have not played well right now because the pass rush hasn't been great. But if this defense can get back to playing top 10 defense like they did last year, there really is no reason the Chargers can't be a Super Bowl contender in the AFC. And they've got some momentum. They've picked up some wins. So keep an eye on this Chargers team over the next month if they can keep adding wins and get some momentum, because that really has been their problem, is just learning how to win and playing confident, knowing they don't have a home field advantage. So then number 4, the New England Patriots on the rise. Really glad we did not freak out about this Patriots team. Now, I still don't totally trust the defense. They just don't have a lot of talent on that side of the ball, but they will continue to play well within that scheme, just like we see with the Patriots every single year. The offense starting to click a little more, getting Josh Gordon going, Julian Edelman returning, Sony Michel, who I'm not that impressed with his tape, but he's producing right now. Maybe still dealing with some of that injury, but he just doesn't look really explosive to me, if I'm being completely honest. But they clearly like what they have going there. So the Patriots on the rise, just doing their thing. And then 3, we've got the New Orleans Saints, and like I said, doing this before the game. So if they lose this game, that would be concerning. This is a game they should win. But I think the defense has looked a little better every week. If they can do their job, hold the Redskins to like 20 points or so, let the offense go to work, I think this is a solid ranking for the Saints team that are just an absolute machine offensively. And then speaking of offensive machines, number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs taking care of the Jags at home pretty handily. Good to see that defense get some things going. Chris Jones with an elite play, reading a screen, getting a pick 6. Justin Houston gets a sack in this one. And I still don't know what's going on with Eric Berry, if and when he's coming back. But to get this defense playing better, paired with how good we know this offense is. Now, Patrick Mahomes had some ups and downs in this one. He did not look like the superhero Mahomes that we've seen, but definitely did enough. And then number 1, the Rams. Resilient win in Seattle. I had that pegged as a trap game, and I kind of said if Seattle can get up over 20 points, that was going to be a really close football game, and that's what happened. The Rams defense, and I know Talib is out, I know Peters is beat up, but I don't think the Rams defense is as good as people want to give it credit for, but the offense is just so good. And the thing is, while that defense does have parts that you can attack, you better be consistent for 4 quarters, because in the 4th quarter, Donald and Sue, their conditioning is impressive because they will keep coming, and they seem to really show up in the 4th quarter when they know, all right, if we get a play here, a play there, we're fine. Our offense will take care of the rest. So that's a scary element of this Rams team. So that's going to do it for the rankings this week. Hit that like button if you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Always fun seeing these comments every week. Very passionate NFL fans out there. I manage to piss someone off every week. So cheers, guys. We'll see you next time. Peace out.